Hello, and thank you for joining this webinar. This is the second webinar in our sustainability-focused webinar series. If you haven't seen the first webinar on navigating the sustainability regulation, feel free to go to our website and watch the recording. Today, we'll dive into a specific aspect of the sustainability-focused regulation, the digital product passport. My name is Mikkel, and I'm an engineer here at Cadis working with sustainability. During some of my projects, I've been working with the implementation of recycled plastics, performing lifecycle assessments, and developing tools to integrate circularity into the product development process. Today, we'll dive into the upcoming Digital Product Passport regulation with an introduction to its purpose, context, and roadmap. Then, I'll talk about the data that could be considered in a digital product passport, some common challenges with sustainability data, and some specific steps as to what you can do to prepare for the digital product passport. First, let's dive into what is the digital product passport. Just like you need a passport to identify who you are, your products will have a passport that follows it everywhere it goes. If you compare the digital product passport to your own passport, you'll see that a lot of the data is comparable to your own. Every product has a unique identifier, just like you have your name and your number. It states the place and date of birth, which is the production facility and the date it's produced. You have a photo and, for example, your height, and your product passport will also have the technical details. Your passport shows where you have been and where you're allowed to go, and the same goes for a product passport, showing the usage and circularity information. It outlines the sustainability information for a product to the relevant actors along the supply chain to enable them to repair, reuse, and recycle your product. Customers typically scan a QR code on your product and then access information that outlines the steps you've taken to enhance the eco-friendly attributes of your products. Because the digital product passport increases the transparency, it builds trust between you and your supply chain, customers, and regulators. By providing product-specific data, such as material data, repair guidelines, the condition it's in, and recyclability, you are supporting the circular economy of your products. The content and working of the digital product passport is still yet to be specified in the specific act, but to get an idea of how it could work, we'll take a look at how it applies to the product lifecycle. Ideally, the material supplier input the specific material data into the passport for manufacturers to use. The manufacturer of parts and products input the specific data on, for example, the durability, the repairability, and other design circularity performance into this product passport. During the use phase, the user can access the relevant data to make sustainability-informed decisions, care for their product, keep it in use, and guidance of how to dispose of it correctly. This data is facilitating circularity once it leaves the initial use phase, as for example, repair shops can access repairability instructions and spare part lists, part data and condition enable part reuse, and material data will enable recycling in the end. As we saw in the first webinar, the Digital Product Passport is a key cornerstone of the revised Eco-Design Directive, as it is a platform to store and share the information that is required to enable circularity. In a brief summary, the revised Eco-Design Directive is called the Eco-Design for Sustainable Products Regulation, ESPR for short, and it is a framework on product sustainability that will be used to set specific eco-design criteria for specific product categories. This includes both performance criteria such as durability or repair, as well as information requirements such as carbon footprint to go into the Digital Product Passport. The ESPR is a part of the European Green Deal adopted back in 2019 as a measure to become carbon neutral by 2050. The ESPR entered into force in July 2024, and the working plan was adopted earlier this year. Currently, the specific act on the Digital Product Passport is expected later this year, with delegated acts on specific products being rolled out until 2030. The core of the Digital Product Passport is data. So let's dive into this for a moment. This need for data presents two types of challenges: identifying and processing data for your products, which includes new ways of measuring and collecting data along your supply chain, and making this data available, which is about designing a system to store and convey the information in the correct way to the correct actors. The data to go into the Digital Product Passport might be sector-specific and will be defined in specific acts and regulations. The Digital Product Passport system is expected to be a harmonized technical system for all digital product passports, including exchange and storage of data, identifiers, and of course, security. Our focus in this webinar is the Digital Product Passport data as it is product-centered and it's in your direct control. The data to go into the digital product passport can be both general information on the product, as we know from our specifications and our manuals currently, and it can also be product category specific information relating to the eco-design requirements for this product category. The data might also be differentiated between offline data in data carriers and online data as hosted by operators. What is very interesting is that the data demanded by the regulation will be the bare minimum, which gives you room to improve your digital product passport and provide voluntary information that will further add value to your customers. Taking a closer look at this data. The content of the digital product passport is not disclosed yet, but looking at the ESPR framework, it might include general information such as product and company information, and specific information such as the product performance, the material data, the environmental impact of the product, recycling data on how to recycle your product, disclosure of any hazardous substances, usage-related information such as maintenance and repair, and product history. Let's take a look into some of these data and how you might acquire them. Data on the carbon footprint and environmental impact is important for enabling consumers to make informed buying decisions. The data requirements could be, for example, the carbon footprint in kilo CO2 equivalents per kilo, but it is likely to include more impact categories such as water use, toxicity, and even resource use. These environmental impacts can be obtained by performing lifecycle assessments, LCAs, of your product, with the environmentally specific data coming from your supply chain, as well as databases such as eConvent. To start working with this data for your product, you can perform lifecycle assessments of your product, which will give you both the environmental impact performance on specific indicators, as well as identify hotspots that are in your products so you know where to focus your efforts if you want to improve the environmental performance of your products. The LCA requires data on your product as well as your supply chain, which means that you can begin engaging your suppliers for data on materials and components. This will in turn enable you to make informed supply chain decisions as well. It's also likely that the material composition and origin needs to be disclosed in a digital product passport. This is like the declaration on the back of the food you buy in the supermarket. What does your product contain? This could be basic bill of material data. How much of it is recycled content? Where is this food produced? As in, where does your materials come from? Sourcing this data will often mean that you need to work closely with your material suppliers to extend your technical data sheets with additional information that is needed in this case. What you can do to begin acquiring this information is that you can engage your suppliers for this data. Ask them to provide a carbon footprint, documentation on the content of hazardous substances, the origin of materials, and so on. To do this in a structured way, you can develop data collection templates to be used as a medium for communication and data collection. And lastly, as the data depends both on the specific material and who supplies it, it all starts with being mindful to which material you choose and who you source it from. Set requirements to data when you screen suppliers. Engage them early on for partnerships. In my experience, most suppliers are more than happy to have early influence in your projects. Data related to circularity, which includes repairability of your product, are important information to provide for the user or repair shops to enable repair services, to enable reuse of components, and also recycling of the product in the end. Circularity is a broad topic with a lot of ways to measure it, but it could look like repairability information. This could be a repairability index score, taking into account the ease of repairability in your product design. It could be repairability information and guides, what is repairable by the user, what needs to be taken to a repair shop, and also which spare parts are available for a product. It could be reusability information, which components are in a reusable condition, how is this tested or indicated, and also how can I extract these parts from the product. It could also be recyclability information, how much of the product is recyclable. This depends on the material composition and also the ability for the materials to be separated. This information is closely related to the product development, and it may be sourced from, for example, the product design specifications, repair manuals, or R&D department. Ideally, you could integrate circularity targets and frameworks into your development process to measure and also be aware of the performance during the development so you can make the right decisions. What circularity strategy you apply to your product is also highly dependent on the type of product and also your business model. One place to start is assessing what circular strategy could work for your business and then design your product accordingly to meet your strategy and also targets. A way to do this is by implementing circularity scoring tools to inform your product development process and drive informed decisions on circularity. I've listed a non-exhaustive and non-definitive overview of data that might be in the digital product passport, who might source it, and how you might source it. We already went over some of these highlighted ones, such as the lifecycle assessment, repairability assessment, recyclability assessment, and also the eco-design assessment. We'll get into how to do these assessments and work with product sustainability in engineering in the upcoming webinars. Some common challenges you might face when beginning your data collection journey are missing data. This is almost certain. There will be data that you need that does not yet exist. If, for example, a lifecycle assessment has not been performed yet, you cannot get the carbon footprint for a product. Maybe the data is not available from the supplier. They might also be at the first steps of trying to meet demand for environmental data. Collaboration with suppliers is therefore essential to go on this journey together. Maybe you have no standardized approach to data collection. This is especially concerning data that you are not used to collect. For example, it could be the product repairability. You need a standardized approach to score your products consistently. It can be insufficient data quality. A lot of data has an expiration date. Maybe the material you find on your technical drawing was substituted for another supplier. Keeping data up to date and ensuring that it is representable is a challenge. And then the last one is the data need uncertainty. As mentioned, it has not yet been disclosed what the specific contents are of the digital product passport, which means that until then, the data need is still uncertain. However, some data that are highlighted previously in this presentation is very likely to become relevant in the near future. To begin preparing for the digital product passport, you can start by identifying the impact that it might have on your company and products. This includes the opportunities to provide added value to your customers. You can form a digital product passport work group to take ownership of this implementation and to begin setting goals. They can then begin sourcing this data that is needed by identifying the necessary data to be sourced and then also planning for how to achieve this data. Once you have this data, you need to structurize it and then fill out any data gaps continuously so you're ready to implement it when the digital product passport comes. Thank you for attending this webinar on the digital product passport. I hope it has provided you with an insight into what is the digital product passport, what it might look like, and the impact it might have on your business. And I hope it has given you input as to what you can do already today. Remember to sign up for more webinars on product sustainability, and if you have any questions, please reach out here on the Creatis website. We're here to support you in your transition towards a more sustainable future.